much for having me here today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, so I'm sorry if I'm just repeating what was said then, but obviously I don't speak French, so I didn't understand any of that. I only heard Gaz Oakley, Vegan 100, all that stuff. So, but I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So I started cooking when I was about 6 to 8 years old at home with my dad in Cardiff in the UK. So I was just helping him cook every evening meal, and it was just simple food, and I just sort of fell in love with it. I found it was a way for me to express my creativity, and I just loved sort of plating up food. At home with my dad, he used to tell me I was too slow, so it made me get faster, which was quite good. It was basically my interests were cooking and sport. I played rugby so I'm from Wales, we all play rugby, and that was my other interest. But cooking got really seriously when I was around 13, where I could take it as a subject at school, and I sort of excelled in the class. There was only 7 of us in the class, and the teachers loved me, which was a change, because in all the other subjects, I wasn't very good. So I was happy about that. And I just found it was sort of a way for me to be creative. And then I had a chance to go on work experience at the age of 15, and I chose to go to a local restaurant. And what I learned in that 1 week's worth of work experience was more than I learned in the whole 2 years of learning in school. So I knew I had to be in the kitchens to become the best chef possible. And I wanted to go and get a Michelin star. I wanted to be the youngest chef with a Michelin star. I wanted to go to Paris and learn the proper way. So at 16, when I could leave school, I became a full-time chef. And my parents, they weren't too happy with me. They were concerned. They knew what the chefing industry was like. But all I wanted to do was become the best chef. So I gave up school. I became a full-time chef. I got a scooter. I was driving back and forth, working huge, long hours. But it was what I wanted to do. It was fun. I was learning so much. And as I said, when you're working all these hours in professional kitchens, you're just soaking up knowledge, and it was so easy for me to learn the proper way of cooking. So that's how I learned my skills. I was a chef for 4 years in my hometown of Cardiff. I worked at some of the best restaurants, and it was an amazing time, but I was working like 80 hours a week, and when all my friends were going off to university and going out with girls and things like that, and I was in the kitchen over a hot stove, it was hard. I remember certain days when it was busy, I would be sleeping in my car in between breaks in the day. It was tough on me at a young age. So after a few years of doing it, I decided to take a break from the industry, and I just got a 9-to-5 job. I was actually just loading lorries on a builder's yard. So as much as I thought that would be a short-term job, I thought one day I'll have a restaurant of my own, I'll go back to cooking. But this job actually turned into more of a career, and I built my way up in this company. And it became a career. It was great, working half the amount of hours and earning more money doing this than, back in the kitchens. But I missed the creativity, I missed cooking. My nickname was chef in my new job, so I needed to get back in the kitchens. And then I watched one YouTube video 3 years ago, and it was a speech by Gary Orofsky, and that video made me go vegan overnight. So I hadn't really done any research into veganism prior to that. I knew when I was eating my meals that I was eating, whether it was meat or fish, I didn't feel good about it. I felt really guilty. And I thought, let me watch this video and see what it's all about. And when he was talking about the animals and the cruelty and the planet and our health, it was enough to put me off that, eating a normal diet for life. And now, for me, there's no other diet on this planet that is good for me. I'm going to be vegan for the rest of my life, and I'm so proud to be vegan. And instantly, thank you. Thank you. And instantly, I rediscovered my passion for cooking. So I got into my parents' kitchen. I was finding the skills that I learned in the professional kitchens were enabling me to create these really, really tasty dishes, and dishes that I hadn't seen on, on social media when I was going out to restaurants, I wasn't getting food that I was really enjoying. So I thought to myself, right, let me show people how to make this tasty food to encourage people to go vegan. And that's how my page, Avant-Garde Vegan, started. And there's a story behind the name, and I'll explain to you about it whilst I'm cooking. And the reason today I've chosen a simple recipe is so I can talk to you. And because I'm very nervous, I'm not used to talking in front of all of these people. And I'm going to show my Instagram because I'm on live right now. Oh, I was on live. How many people there are, because I can't, I can't believe it. So my data charge at home is going to be extortionate after that, but who cares? So yeah, the reason I would love it if you can ask me questions throughout this, and the best question is going to win my plated up dish. So there's going to be enough for a lot of you to taste this dish, but I'm going to do a complete dish for one of you to taste once it's made. So ask me some questions. Don't be shy. If I can talk in front of all of you, you can ask me some questions. So please ask me some questions. So the dish I'm going to be cooking is a dish from my cookbook, Vegan 100. And it's on the back page of the book. And I really like this recipe because it's something simple. It turns bland tofu into something quite spectacular. You can make it without a blender. I usually use a potato masher, but we don't have one of these here today, so I'm going to try and do it with my hands. It should be fine. And it's just really tasty. Some of my favorite ingredients: sriracha sauce. I seen a meme on Instagram, and it was saying that this is like the go-to sauce for us vegans. People put it on everything, you know, chips, bread, just weird things. So I thought, let me make a proper dish using it. It's a lovely tasting sauce, so I'm going to use that. And as I said, ask me questions. When I obviously started posting pictures to my Instagram account, I had no idea at all that it's going to turn into what it is now, and I'd be talking in front of all of you amazing people. Sorry, 1 second. 1 second. So, you know, it's a dream come true. I never thought this. I never thought that I'd go onto YouTube when I started posting pictures on Instagram. And my advice to any of you guys out here today, if you've got a skill or a passion, use social media to your advantage and start posting, because you don't know where it's going to take you. And don't be afraid of what people are going to say. Just do it. Just get your stuff out there. So Instagram started blowing up for me. They must have liked my dishes, because there wasn't much like that on Instagram. I started sort of investing in the production of the pictures. I tried to make sure my food pictures were really beautiful. And I got to 7,000 Instagram followers and thought that I'd made it. I quit my job and instantly started worrying then, because I had no money. But I started doing little vegan festivals where I'd be making cakes and things like that and serving them up at local festivals. And that was enabling me to fund Instagram and things. When I got to around 35,000 Instagram followers, you know, things started getting really serious. And I decided to go over to YouTube to show people how I was making these recipes, because it's all very well and good me showing people nice pictures of food and supplying with the recipes, but I need to show people how to do it, and that's the way I thought I can get more people eating vegan food. So although I'm quite shy, so this is tough for me doing this, I'm getting used to it, but when I first had cameras on me on YouTube, and the first videos are still on there now, I didn't smile once. I'm awkward. It's horrible. I'm sorry if you've watched those ones, but if any of you are subscribed to my channel now, there's been a progression as I've gone on, and YouTube's my biggest platform now with over 500,000 subscribers, which is incredible. I honestly can't believe it. Thank you. You guys are too kind. Everywhere I've been in the last 2 days since being in Montreal, I've met so many nice people. So yeah, you guys are lovely. So yeah, that's me. In the time of doing YouTube, I've done 2 cookbooks as well. Vegan 100 and Vegan Christmas has just come out. And I'll talk more about it as I go along. But just trying to get vegan food out there, trying to make it as cool and as tasty as possible so it gets more people eating less animals. That's my mission. I'm going to stop my live now, and I'm going to get on with it. Okay. And now I'm going to open it up for questions. So as I'm cooking along, help me out and ask me questions. There's going to be a microphone passed around, and I'll just talk you through the recipe as I'm doing it. But I chose a simple one so we can have this conversation. I prefer it. It makes it easier for me talking rather than feeling nervous. So first up, for this recipe, use some firm tofu. And this tofu is excellent here. It's really, really firm. And I'm just going to break this up into a mixing bowl. And we're going to get some flavors into it. And we're making meatballs. So this is a fun recipe. Someone commented this morning on this recipe on YouTube saying, why on earth are you calling it meatballs? There's no meat in it. But people shouldn't be reading too much into the names of things. It's just, you know, it's tasty food. They look like meatballs. Who cares, you know? So yeah, I'm crumbling this up into the mixing bowl. And I've got some lovely sort of Asian-inspired flavors going into this. So it's going to be bold. They're going to be really flavorsome. Any questions? Have one at the front here.
It doesn't exactly concern your cooking, but have you tried poutine in here?
Have I tried what, sorry?
Poutine, it's
no, I haven't.
Something, it's like a local food, so I was
curious.
Yes,
I've heard a lot about it, but no, I haven't yet. I went to Sushi Momo yesterday, which was absolutely incredible. You guys love big portions, though. Oh, my God. I went there on my own and ordered what I thought would be enough for one, and it was probably enough for 6, so you like your portions here, which isn't a problem.
Hey, Gaz.
Hello.
So I couldn't decide, so I have 3 questions. One is, when are you opening your restaurant? 2 is, where did you buy your sweater? And 3 is, what do you think about Satan?
Say that again?
What do you think about Satan?
Satan. Okay.
Yeah, Satan.
Okay, so the first question.
That was about to take a whole nother turn.
Okay, so the first question, when am I going to be opening my restaurant? Now, when I started cooking, my goals were to open a restaurant. That's all I want to do. I want to become the youngest chef with a Michelin star. Sadly, that is gone now, and that's not my motivation anymore. My motivation has changed a lot, and it's for, you know, for the animals and for the planet and for health and stuff like that. You don't need to clap, honestly, but thank you. I really appreciate it. But my motivation now, as I said, is for that. So I'm not in too much of a hurry. I know how working in kitchens has taught me how tough it is to open a restaurant. And at this stage in my career, you know, I haven't got the sort of the finances behind me just to be the brains behind it. So if I was to start a restaurant now, I'd be in the kitchens working those long hours. If there was a problem with anything at all, you know, I'd be there. I'd have to be there on the ground, which I wouldn't be able to do my YouTube. I wouldn't be able to do books, and I feel as if that I need to sort of, you know, spread my name about a bit more before I do that. So what I've said is on my YouTube channel, when I reach 1 million subscribers, that's when I'll announce where my first restaurant's going to be. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Feels like there's 500,000 people in here at the moment, so gosh, this tofu is firm. Okay, and the next question was sweater. I bought it yesterday from Urban Outfitters here, because it's so cold here. I just come back from Bali, and it was warm, and I came here and I realized I didn't have any warm clothes, so yeah. And finally, seitan. If you watch my YouTube channel, I cook with it all the time. And I love veganizing things, you know, and that product is amazing to create meaty textures. And I think that is so important to get non-vegans interested in vegan food. And especially when I first went vegan, I missed, you know, certain textures and tastes. I didn't go vegan because I didn't like the taste of meat. So I'm happy to recreate it, and that's a great, amazing product to enable me to do that. So I love seitan. Yeah, that was the final one. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about the recipe. In Indonesia, I did this recipe at a festival. It was probably about a fraction of the size of this. And the tofu was too wet. It was too soft. You need like a firm tofu. This is extra firm today, so I'm battling in with it in a different way. So when you're making this recipe at home, you just want a firm tofu, not extra firm. And that enables you to boil it up properly. I'm going to struggle with this, but I've got no excuse when I'm talking in front of all of you, so I'm going to make it work. So into the bowl, I've just added some tomato puree, some minced garlic. Oh, we're on camera. Yeah. And some chilies going in. And that's something that you can alter to your preference. If you want it more spicy, just add more. And next I'm going to add, not that, I'm going to add some sriracha sauce, obviously. I'm hoping this is going to make it slightly moister and enable me to, to ball it up. Usually I'd be using a masher, like a potato masher, old-fashioned one. I'd be using that, and I really was happy with this recipe when I made it for my book, because I thought to myself, lots of the recipes in the book require using a blender, and I wanted a dish that is, easy for someone like a student to make who doesn't have a blender in the kitchen. So I thought if I could make a dish that's tasty and simple, that requires just a few pieces of equipment, it's going to encourage people to make it. So unfortunately, I don't have a masher today, but I'm using this wooden spoon. And it's working okay. Just trying to sort of turn this into like a, a sticky enough mixture to ball up. I'm going to add some chopped spring onions. Do you call them scallions? Oh, you call them scallions. You don't call them scallions, do you, here? It'd be French, wouldn't it? So not scallions. Sorry. Any questions? Or another one?
On va donner la chance à quelqu'un d'autre si ça te dérange pas. Ouais!
What's your favorite vegan food you like to eat?
Good question. I just love food. So I don't really have a favorite necessarily, but I love Caribbean food. I love Japanese food. I love anything that is really bold and flavoursome, really. So probably as far away from British food as possible, something flavoursome, got a bit of a kick to it. I like that. So this dish is, this sums me up. This dish really. If there's a bit of fried plantain in this dish, it would be my dream meal probably. But I don't think I can put it with everything, as much as I'd like to. So next, I'm going to add some sesame oil to this mix. And if you want to keep this recipe oil-free, just leave it out. Just helps it bind, and it adds like a real nice nutty flavor. This recipe is also gluten-free as well, which is something that I'm trying to do more on my YouTube channel, because I'm getting asked for it, so I'm going to keep going with it. One thing that is so important when you're cooking, and one of the first things I learned when I stepped into a professional kitchen, is mise en place, which is a French term, and it's about getting things ready in your bowls, and that speeds up your cooking. It makes you more efficient. It makes you more tidy. So if I didn't have something like that ready in the professional kitchens, and a check came on and I wasn't ready, I'd be delaying the kitchen so much, and that's really bad. And as a young chef, if you're slowing the kitchen down, you're going to get in trouble. And it's a very sort of tough industry, especially when you do something wrong. So I learned the hard way, and it just, it's made me a lot more organized. And if you watch my YouTube channel, everything's in beautiful little bowls. And I've got a thing about bowls. You'd never see me using something like that on my YouTube channel. Sadly, I couldn't bring a bag full of nice bowls with me. But yeah, I love pottery. I love plates and bowls. And I almost think of it like the canvas to serve food on. So if you want to create nice pictures of food, especially, or you just want to serve some nice looking food, think about the plates and the bowls that you serve it on. Going back, sorry, to the mise en place, I didn't have my salt and pepper ready, so you need to have it. And this is another really key thing in cooking: seasoning food. That's the first thing that when I eat out at restaurants, if it's not seasoned properly, it's not going to be flavoursome. These things bring out flavour, so you need to add them. Things like lime juice as well, or lemon juice, they both bring flavours out if you don't want to add salt, for example. But I remember when I was cooking in the kitchens, I was off for a few days because I had a cold, and my taste buds went. I couldn't smell or taste anything for like 2 weeks after. And as a young chef in the kitchens, I'd be cooking, and you have to taste as you go every time you're making things to know that when you serve it to the hot plate for the head chef to plate up, it's going to be seasoned properly. And I had to keep asking the chef next to me, because I couldn't taste anything, if it was seasoned. And he was like, "Yeah, do you not know if it's, well, why don't you understand this? He just thought I was stupid because I just started at this restaurant and I felt so silly, but I just couldn't taste anything. But it's so important to add salt and pepper to recipes if you want to create vibrant, tasty dishes. Question?
You have 2 questions over here first.
Hi. So I'm wondering, I know that you became vegan overnight, right? Were your family and relatives supportive of that? And if they weren't, how do you deal with negativity, not necessarily from random people on the internet, but more like close friends and family? Do you have anyone that's not supportive?
I'm so lucky that I have the most supportive parents in the world ever. So, for example, my dad coached my rugby team from the age of 6 to 16. Like, they've been so supportive throughout my life. And I wouldn't be doing what I do now if it wasn't for them. For example, when I quit my job, you know, they let me live at home rent-free and take over their kitchen and create this food. So I owe them a lot. And when I told them I was vegan, they were actually on holiday, and they probably thought to themselves, oh, what is he doing now? That type of thing. But I explained why. My dad actually watched the Gary Arofsky video shortly after, and he went vegan. So he actually, it's a bit of a long story, but he had a big heart operation. And it's taken a while for him to recover from that. And he's gone back to sort of eating 90% plant-based. And now and then, if he's eating out with work and stuff, he may have some fish. But I couldn't be more happy for him to do that, especially having that heart operation. So he cooks vegan every night for my mum. And my mum went vegan as well without even watching anything, which is great. And in terms of people, any negativity, when I was actually in my old job, when I'd just gone vegan, I was still in that old 9-to-5 job, it was hard explaining to some of them, like, what on earth is he doing? Like that, and especially where I was working wasn't in the main city, it was outside of Cardiff, where I'm from, and it was harder to get them to understand it. But now, as it just seems to have grown so much, veganism in general, and it's on the tip of everyone's tongue. So I think that it's not as sort of unusual to people anymore. It's becoming more and more, yeah. And I think more and more people are just open to it. And with social media, it's helping spread the message a lot more. So yeah. And obviously, I'm doing something so amazing at the moment. Like I pinch myself every day to realize this is what I do for a living, and for my close friends and family to see that on social media. They're very proud, so yeah, they're very supportive.
We have another question if you're okay with that.
Hi, Gaz. I was wondering, besides your parents, were you able to convince any of your friends to be vegan? Like, I know my question is quite similar to this question, but yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, definitely. A few of my friends have gone vegan, which is great. You know, if I can get them to go vegan, that's great. But you know, I want to get as many people in the world as I can going vegan. So that's more important, really. But yeah, well, I guess it's great. It's nice having vegan friends, especially. So yeah, a few of them have gone vegan, which is good.
Do we have time for another one?
Yeah. I'll tell everyone a little bit about what I've done so far.
All right, let's
go.
So
Obviously, I said this is an extra firm tofu, so it's taken me a bit longer to mash this down and to turn it into this sort of consistency where I know that it's going to be able to ball up. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to get my baking tray, and I'm going to flour my hands with some buckwheat flour. So that's how I've enabled this to be gluten-free. I've used some buckwheat flour, which is an amazing flour to use. It's something that I only started cooking with when I went vegan, and you can make amazing pancakes, waffles, crepes. You can add it into burgers or meatballs like this, which makes the recipes gluten-free. So it's a great thing to add to recipes. So I'm just going to ball this up. I'm going to make these a little bit smaller than usual so I can give them to as many people to taste them as I can. And I can have a question.
Yeah, we're over here.
Hi. I was just wondering, for someone who's still eating meat like myself, you did it one day to the next. I hear a lot of stories where it's difficult to go vegan from one day to the next.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions or recommendations on how to do it, maybe like baby step style?
Baby step. Well, for me, I always say this to people, and it's all very well and good, you know, people finding like my recipes online and thinking that looks cool or that looks tasty, I'm going to give it a go, I'm going to go vegan. But if I was to come across a tasty looking dish on Instagram, for example, and say, right, I'm going to give veganism a go, I don't think I would have stuck to it. I needed something like that video I watched where, you know, Gary Yourofsky talked about the cruelty to animals, and it really just, you know, it woke me up and realized, this is actually going on. It's not just a product that we get from the supermarket. It's a real, this is a living thing that's, you know, it's died for us. So that enabled me to think that, you know, this is the only diet I can ever have. So when I go out to shops or restaurants where they don't have a vegan option, I will just, you know, I'll choose some nuts or some fruit. There's no option for me but to be vegan. So that's how I stick to a vegan diet. However, if you want to take it with baby steps, I reckon just first, maybe replacing your milk, so choose to go for a non-dairy milk. Eggs, start experimenting with things like tofu. I'll tell you a little about this further on, but I actually can make vegan hard-boiled eggs as well, which is quite strange. And then nowadays, and especially in Canada and America, you can just go to your supermarkets and find loads of meat replacements which are so good these days that you just swap that out for, say, for example, chicken or beef, whatever you would usually eat, or fish. There's so much, you know, products out there now, which is great, and there's so many here that you can taste. So it's a lot easier these days compared to even 3 years ago, which spurred me on to get in the kitchen to create stuff myself. But good luck. So I'm just balling these up now. As I said, again, this tofu is very firm, so I'm using my hands to sort of mold it together as best as I can. We can have a question if you like.
Yeah, we're over here.
So I was wondering, what like nostalgic recipe from your childhood you would like to veganize that you haven't veganized yet?
What haven't I veganized yet?
A childhood recipe.
Say that again?
A childhood recipe, so a classic, something that you would like to
good
veganize
question.
but hasn't yet been veganized.
Oh, that I haven't yet done. Good question. I don't think I have anything in my head, but I know that anything is possible, so I'm not afraid to try anything. One childhood sort of thing that I veganized, which really sort of blew up my YouTube channel, was my vegan fish and chips, which is a great British classic. And when I did that, it sort of took my YouTube channel to the next level. And fish and chips is a dish that we have in the UK, which has been eaten for like centuries. Crispy batter, fish in the center, chips. It's an amazing dish. So to veganize that was really cool. And there's actually fish and chips restaurants popping up around the UK now. Whether they're using my recipe or not, it's great to see them doing that.
We have another question over here.
Hi.
Hi.
What's your favorite vegan recipe that you're making always when you're trying to convince someone to go vegan? You know, favorite recipe for non-vegan to convince them, and why?
Good question. Well, I think that any recipe that I make would be appealing to non-vegans, because this is why I make my food. I make it for non-vegans. I know that vegans are going to like the recipe because it's vegan and, you know, it's tasty. But to get non-vegans eating it is my goal. So I make my recipes to appeal to non-vegans with the thought that they, you know, if they like it, they're going to cut down eating meat or go vegan. So any of my recipes for non-vegans. Sorry if that's a bit cocky.
Time for one more?
Yeah, sure.
Over here.
Yeah. So this is good recipe making with kids and things like that. Get them involved to ball up. It's fun, so yeah.
All right, let's go.
Hi, I was just wondering, what was the thing that you found most challenging to veganize out of all your recipes? That was the most difficult that you found?
So what's the most challenging thing for me to veganize?
That you've done so far or that you're trying to veganize at the moment?
What I'm trying to veganize at the moment?
Or something that you've tried or are trying at the moment. Like, what's been the biggest challenge for you to veganize?
Well, the one recipe in my cookbook, which I'm not plugging it, it's just one that came to mind. It's my Christmas book, you know, I needed to make an equivalent to turkey, you know. Everyone eats turkeys at Christmas, which is so bad, you know. We need to cut it down. So if I can make a vegan one, hopefully that will encourage people. So I managed to create a stuffed vegan turkey wrapped in my homemade vegan bacon, which is so tasty. It's got stuffing in the middle of it, really Christmassy, and I was really proud when I managed to do that. Yeah. If anyone wants to come and help me ball up these, feel free.
Hi. I was wondering, over here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Why don't you think people talk more about the meat issue and all the animal products issue when it comes to climate change? Because nowadays people are getting more conscious about the climate change issue, but the way to achieve emission reduction around the world, like among vegans, we all know meat is one of the greatest issue, but why don't you think it's not more widespread among general population over climate change?
It's because it's such a large industry, I think, and you know, it's such a moneymaker that these big corporations don't want to, they don't want that news getting out into the general, the media, and it's probably all controlled. I don't know, I'm not a politician, I don't know too much about it, but I'm assuming that it's all controlled by a power that doesn't want it getting out there as much as possible. But it's down to people like us to spread it as much as we can and use social media and just spread the message as much as we can. Yeah. Hopefully one day, it will it'll be a lot easier and that news will be more in the mainstream. I think it's becoming more out there, which is good.
If you want, we have another question over here.
Cool, yeah.
Hey, so I recently listened to the Plant Proof podcast with Simon Hill, which is great, really
Thank
cool.
You.
And he seemed super keen on getting you over to Australia to do a collab with him in Bondi. Do you, just like shameless plug on Australia, do you see many collaborations like that coming up in the near future, or are you sort of a bit busy with your tour and stuff?
I thought that was a secret, so you just told everyone.
Well, everyone should go and listen to the podcast. It's great.
Was it in the podcast?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay. We talked about a lot.
Actually, no, he just was very keen. You didn't give anything away, so.
Yeah, so I recently did a podcast with Plant Proof. It's on social media now. I met up with Simon, who runs it in Bali, and we just talked for like an hour and a half. And he's from Australia, and I think his girlfriend has a restaurant, and they wanted me to come over and do a collaboration, which would be a dream. And one thing that I'm so grateful for is the ability to travel and work and do this. I was in the professional kitchens for 4 years, which is a dip in the ocean in comparison to experienced chefs. Although I learned so much, it's still, I want to learn more. And rather than me going back into that environment, which would be tough now that I eat vegan, I want to travel and learn different cultures, and that's the only way I'm going to be able to, learn more and just inspire me to create different dishes. Traveling is going to enable me to do that. So if I can get to Australia, that would be a dream, and everywhere in between as well. With this dish, as I said, I wanted to just make this dish like visually beautiful, packed full of flavor. So I've got some lovely veg to serve with this. I've got some water boiling here because I'm going to cook off some noodles as well. We're going to serve it on a bed of noodles, some grilled veg, and I love grilling vegetables because it's another way of getting flavor into veg and jazzing it up a little bit. And this is the reason why I make my recipes, is just for flavor. That's why I'm a chef. That's what chefs do. We just like flavor. So grilling something is a little tip, like a little technique to just take something to the next level. Someone's waving like lows at that grilling point. Yeah, man. Any questions?
Yeah, we have a question over here. Hi.
Hey.
Do you actually need help balling up the tofu? Because I don't mind doing it.
Did you see that I just finished?
Oh, damn it. Okay.
I've got like one left.
Next time.
But
can she just come up and hold your hand? And, I feel like you need help for something.
I've got stuff all over my hand. I don't mind.
I think we have a real question over here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for passing around the mic as well.
Yeah, you better pay me. That wasn't a joke.
It just calms my nerves down just having a conversation with you guys rather than me just talking nonsense for an hour.
So we have a question over here, Gaz.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, are there any taste, textures, techniques from your classical training that you haven't been able to replicate and that you miss?
Good question. We're never going to be able to veganize literally everything, but the techniques that I learned have just helped me bring out flavors and make, for cooking in general, traditional cooking in general, they rely so much on the fish, the meat, things like that to actually add flavor to dishes, whether it's, cooking a piece of meat to add flavor to a sauce, or using, it sounds horrible, but using the bones to make a broth. And the stock. It's a horrible thing thinking about it, but that's how traditional cooking, is evolved. So I know that I need to season at every stage, add a good amount of base ingredients such as garlic, onion, carrot, celery, all things like that to my dishes, which enables me to bring flavors out. So I don't think I know there's a limit to the amount of things that you can veganize, but as long as I'm bringing flavors out, I'm going to create something tasty. I hope that answers the question.
It did, and good luck. Just one comment. If you're going to have people taste, I would suggest you have some vegans and some non-vegans and see if...
Good question. Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea. Cool.
You have another question over here.
So I've just balled up these balls now. They're... It's looking quite nice and firm. What I do with this recipe, I get some nice color on them in the pan. I get them back into a tray and into the oven. I don't have an oven today, so I'm going to cook them a little bit slower on the stove so that they cook through to the center. The liquid evaporates and they firm up as much as possible. So I need a pan. Where's my pan? Mise en place. Damn. Can I have a non-stick pan, please? A frying pan? A non-stick pan?
So maybe we can ask
Sorry, guys.
Do you want a question while waiting, Gaz, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah?
Hi.
I'm ready.
Hello.
So I realize that you've just come back from Bali. I see a lot of vegan bloggers. Actually, I just realized I have two questions. But I see a lot of vegan bloggers and a few YouTubers that go over to Bali, and there is a lot of great plant-based food options there and a lot of good natural food options there. But I do notice that a lot of people shy away from the problem of economic disparity in Bali, especially when it comes to food production, food consumption, and access to healthy foods. I was wondering if you noticed on your trip there if that economic disparity was closing a bit, or if you saw some improvements, especially in terms of the accessibility to healthy foods.
Yeah.
And then the second question that I had is, my friends and I have tried your vegan egg, because I didn't know about you until I saw the ramen video with the vegan egg. How do you get it? I've tried and failed miserably so many times. And it's like the yolk is weird, and like the egg itself doesn't work. Like, I don't know how to do it.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I'll explain it.
Thanks.
So the first question, I'm probably not articulate enough to even put my answer into words. But I did notice that it's, I'm trying to think of the right word to use. It's definitely, it's a poor country, and you can tell that. And, lots of Westerners have gone there and started businesses. And I really do hope that, they're giving back to the locals and the local community and getting them involved. And I did notice that a lot of these businesses, the staff there were all locals, which is good, I guess. But in terms of, well, that's all I can sort of say on the matter, really. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not articulate enough to, just get my answer out. But in terms of the vegan egg, I can talk cooking fine, So, on my YouTube channel, I did a ramen. If those of you that haven't seen my YouTube channel, someone asked me to create a ramen, and prior to going vegan, whenever I had a ramen, we would have, there would be a hard-boiled egg in there. And as I said, I create my recipes to appeal to non-vegans, and maybe someone that eats ramens all the time, that's thinking about going vegan, will say think to themselves, I'm going to miss my ramen with the egg. So I thought, let me just try and make it. So I had a recipe for a panna cotta, which is a set cream and I used coconut cream and corn flour to set the cream. And I decided to make a savory panna cotta to make the egg white. So I had a chocolate egg mold, and that's what I set the egg in. And I, used the corn flour. I put some miso in the coconut milk to get a Japanese flavor, and I set it, put it in the mold, obviously, and set it, and then scooped the center out using a melon ball and put some Sriracha mayo in it, which is an orange color, and that created the yolk, which it's actually mind-blowing and so tasty, but it's quite difficult to get right. If you haven't worked with corn flour especially, you need to know how far to take the mix when you thicken it up. But just watch my YouTube channel, watch that part, and I think I explain it in quite good detail. But anyway, in terms of that vegan egg, there's a restaurant in the UK called Wagamama, and it's a Japanese restaurant which is, it's everywhere. And I've been a fan of that restaurant since I was about 8 years old when I started cooking with my dad. He brought home their cookbook, and it had a DVD inside, and it was the chefs from Wagamama cooking up a few of their dishes. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I've got to get to Wagamama. But at the time, they weren't as big as they are now. They didn't have one in my hometown of Cardiff. The only one, they were in London, and I never went to London when I was a kid. It's about 3 hours away from my house. So I was dying to taste it, but I was watching this video all the time, and I remember going on holiday to France. We used to go on camping holiday to France every year, and there was a guy playing in the park, and he had a little kid, playing in the park with a Wagamama t-shirt on, and I hated him. I was so jealous that he had that t-shirt. Really wanted it myself because I was that much of a fan. But anyway, years later, Wagamama grew, and 10 minutes left. What? There's 10 minutes left. I better get cooking. So I'm frying these off now. I'm getting them golden. Anyway, Wagamama grew and grew and grew. And, they're everywhere now. They're in every, every corner of the UK and across the world now. So as I was growing up, in my teenage years, me and my friends would go there quite often. And it was great food. They're really vibrant, consistent, tasty, Japanese-inspired food. And I fell in love with it. When I went vegan, though, it was tough to get some dishes there. I had to veganize a few dishes, but it wasn't as good. But in the last 2 years, they have brought out an extensive vegan menu. You only have to walk into Wagamama's these days, and they say to you, do you want a vegan menu, which is great. And if you don't get asked, all the staff are trained to ask on the door, which is amazing. It shows how far veganism's come now. And anyway, they must have seen my vegan egg on YouTube, and they got in touch, and I've just announced my dish with them. We've done a dish together. It's a collaboration dish, which is probably the biggest achievement of my career, to have a dish on the menu at Wagamama. And this is going to go everywhere. My pan's too small. And it actually features my vegan eggs. So we've got sticky barbecue seitan. We've got some lovely vegetables on a bed of rice with some amazing sauces. And then on top of it, my vegan egg, which is huge for the vegan scene in the UK. A high street restaurant having a vegan egg on the menu is just, I didn't think that would be possible, especially when I was creating that recipe. So obviously that's a dream come true. And all the staff in the restaurants are wearing Gaz Oakley t-shirts now. And they're sending one for me to New York, where I'm going next week. So I'll finally get that Wagamama t-shirt, and it has my name on it. So it's amazing. Thank you. So can I have some oil, please? Some oil? Oil? Oil. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get these nice and golden now. I'm conscious of time because I've got probably 8 minutes left now. Whoops. Feeling too comfortable up here. So I'm just cooking off some rice noodles. As soon as they're done, I'm going to get this pan off, and I'm going to grill some veg. I need another stove here, so that's slowing me a little bit. But I'm going to grill off some pak choy, some asparagus, some tender stem broccoli, and some radishes. Radishes aren't something that you think to grill, but they go amazing when they're grilled. I'm just going to cut them up into quarters and get some nice charring on these, which adds some extra flavor. And all these colors help make a beautiful looking dish, which, as I said before, is very important when you're trying to wow someone. It's all about, hopefully that don't burn, it's all about the presentation. People eat with their eyes, and it's one of the most fun parts for me, cooking. You know, I love plating up with flair. I love wowing people, and that's what you'll see on my YouTube channel if you watch videos. I try and plate up. Everything has a nice plate or bowl, and I go to the extent of hiring these plates and bowls often. They're not all my collection, as much as I'd love to have loads, but I go to the extent of, because I really just want to make it visually appealing as possible to get as many people interested in the food as I can. I can answer some questions as I'm cooking, if you like.
Do you want one last question?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, I'm going to be signing some books over there after, so if you have any questions, just ask me then. But I can answer some more now.
We have one question back here. She's been very patient. I'm almost there.
I'm getting stressed now that I've got no time.
Keep cooking, keep cooking.
We're all the way back here. I'm shy.
It's okay, we're all the way back here, Gaz.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I have two questions. First question, what is your favorite dessert? And second question, do you plan on doing a collaboration with Rachel Ama? Thank you.
My favorite dessert, anything with like caramelized apple in it. I really love caramelized apple. I had a lovely apple turnover yesterday at Sophie Sucre here. That was lovely. Anything with apple in it, I love. And Rachel Ama, yeah, she's a friend of mine from the UK. She's also a YouTuber. She did come on my channel recently where I made watermelon poke, so she came on. But yeah, I spoke to her the other day and said, because she made one of my recipes on the channel, I said, why don't you get me on there and I'll cook it for you? So potentially, yes, there'll be a collaboration. But I want to collaborate with as many people as I can. But when I make my videos at home, I don't even film them at home. So the whole YouTube thing has been quite a big expense and an investment for me. I can't film in my parents' kitchen at home. I hire properties to do it. I started off when I had no budget whatsoever. I started off filming in an Airbnb. I didn't tell the owners of the Airbnb that I was going to be filming in there, but I then moved to a nice studio. So if you've watched my YouTube in the last sort of 2 years, I'm now in a year and a half, so I'm in a lovely studio, which is like my dream kitchen. One day I hope to have my own studio, which would make it more accessible for me to film sort of every week, rather than at the moment where I film like once every 3 months, and I film them in a block of 12, and 12 videos, and I sort of run out of time, and it's hard for me to get people on to my channel. So eventually one day I'll be able to film a season where I'll be doing more collaborations, I hope. Excellent. Can I have like a slotted spoon? A slotted spoon. You know, I was talking about mise en place before. It's very important, especially when you're cooking in front of loads of people. It's hard when you're not cooking in your own kitchen. You know, like a slotted spoon with holes in it, or like some tongs or something, please. Okay, so when you're grilling vegetables, you want to get your pan as hot as possible and smoky. If you've got gas at home, all the better, because I'm using these induction ones and they're a bit slow, but get your gas as hot as possible. Open your windows, get your oil in there and get it smoky, and then get the veg in there, and that will enable you to get some beautiful color and charring on the vegetables. I am running out of time. Come on, cook. Okay, so what else am I going to serve this with? We got our noodles, we got our veg, we got the tofu. I haven't done my sauce, so I'm going to make that quickly when I get some space. And just the sauce is really simple. I'm going to make just a lovely glaze, really, because these are... Okay, would you be able to do me a huge favor? I'm sorry to ask, but just take this pan and drain them off for me and then bring them back. Thank you so much. It could be quite hot. Oh, no, it's not hot. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. So, for the sauce, I'm just getting some sriracha in there and some tomato ketchup. I just want to make this like really sort of like a glaze almost. I'm getting some maple syrup. Well, this is amazing here, obviously. But at home, our maple syrup's rubbish. So I'm getting that in there as well. And a touch of seasoning. And as soon as I got some space on the stove here, I'm going to make a quick glaze. Well, I'm just going to heat this up until thick, basically. Come on, cook. These induction hobs are rubbish. This one's better. Who cares if I roll on a little bit? No one? I can have a little bit more time, can't I? Yeah? Okay, good. So, where's my bowl? Oh, someone's taken it. I'll be back, 1 second. Someone's taken my bowl. There it is. That's okay. Oh, no, yeah, I'll use this one. This is not the one. Okay, so I've got quite a nice bowl. And I'm going to get my noodles in. So we've got our bed of noodles. Rice noodles, they're beautiful. And they work really well with this dish. And basically what I'm going to try and do is just get some lovely colors and just present this as nice as possible, really, as soon as these meatballs are cooked. God, there's me getting all confident and asking you to ask me questions. I've put myself under some pressure now. So these meatballs are going to be cooked a little faster than I'd like, but the longer you cook them at home, the more they sort of firm up, and you'll get more of a bite out of them and more of a texture. Just going to add some seasoning to the pepper, the veg as well. And what's the time now? Is it it's 2 o'clock now? What's 5 minutes left? Yeah, excellent. She may have said it's 5 past, but I'm pretending she said it's 5:02. Get some nice color on these. Oh, so does everyone watch my videos? Who watches my videos here? Oh, amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's weird because obviously when I'm looking at the comments and the views and things like that, it's just a number on the screen. You know, it doesn't seem real. And then I come to places like this and people recognize my face. It's just the weirdest thing in the world. And obviously, it's an amazing feeling to know that my hard work is appreciated. It's really nice. So thank you so much for coming out and supporting me here today. It's a dream come true, literally. Thank you. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm nearly done. I'm nearly done.
Do you think we have time for one last question? I'm over here. I'm over here.
Go on.
One last question.
Hey there. Thank you so much. I love your channel.
Oh, thank you so much.
A couple of quick questions. So first of all, I've managed to convert a couple of friends to veganism through my cooking with foods like tofu.
Sorry, I can't quite hear.
Oh, sorry.
So sorry.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying I've managed to convert a couple of friends throughout cooking like tofu, for example, and lots of other vegan foods. But whenever I cook tempeh, they say it's disgusting. So is like, do you have any quick ways of cooking tempeh that you love? And also, are you ever going to start selling again your pink hoodies with vegan 100s? I'm totally plugging your merch, but yeah, I love it.
Good question. Okay, tempeh, I've noticed, especially going to Bali recently, that there's a severe quality difference in the stuff that I get in the UK and the stuff that you can find in somewhere like Indonesia. It's absolutely incredible there. And you don't need to add any flavors to make it. You could just pan fry it and it tastes incredible. But you know, you may be able to get some really good tempeh here in Canada. Hopefully you can. And I recommend maybe turn it into like a bacony flavor. So get some things like soy sauce, use some tomato puree, liquid smoke, seasoning. You know, just get loads of flavors in there to try and turn it into like a bacony flavor. Will appeal to your friends, I think. Okay, so we're all good here. Okay, I've just reduced my sauce down. Oh yeah, and the second question, my hoodies. So this is something that is like, I've been umming and ahhing in my head. I used to do merch and clothing on my YouTube channel. And I love clothing, I love clothes. You'll see on my channel all the time that I wear something nice in most videos if I can. Some people don't like it, but I do. And fashion is something that I really want to get into one day. I just like being creative, and I think that's a way of me being creative. But I've understood now that it's a bad industry, especially for the planet. There's so many clothes being made daily, and we buy clothes and then we sort of don't wear them a few months later. And I don't want to be involved in me just making clothes that just are worn 1 month and then not worn again. So I will do merch again one day, but I will try and do something more sustainable, whether I'm doing like vintage stuff. And that's what I'm trying to buy now, as much as I can, vintage clothing. So just to, we've got too many clothes on this planet, just try and get some old stuff if you can. So yeah, maybe I won't do necessarily my own merch, but definitely one day I'll try and have a sort of sustainable clothing line. That would be a dream. Because I don't want to just be a vegan chef. I want to do everything. I'm more than just cooking. So fashion stuff, the restaurant, books, travel stuff, really getting back into my fitness. So before I was vegan, I used to work out, and that's what sort of got me onto the path of being vegan. So I wanted to be as healthy as possible. Then I found that video, but I love my fitness, and it's a way for me to sort of clear my mind because I'm so busy these days. So I love going to the gym and working out. So I like to do some fitnessy stuff. So I'm going to try and do as much as I can. Anyway, I plated this up in a little bit of a rush, and I'm almost done. So I've just plated up, got lots of colors going on. One thing, a little tip for presentation, especially with dishes like this, get yourself a peeler, get a carrot or a cucumber, make some ribbons out of it, and this just adds a little flair to your dish. And what I'll do, I'll continue to cook these ones that are in the pan, and I'm going to cut those up. But I need to choose a winner that's going to eat this dish, so I need to think who asked the best question. I'll have a think. But anyway, this is my Sriracha Meatballs. I really appreciate all your questions. I'm sorry I ran on a little bit. I really appreciate the support, and thank you so much to Montreal Vegan Festival for having me here, because what a dream come true. And hopefully I'll be back. Thank you.